Hey, welcome to Next Level Method Podcast. I'm Richard Ryerson.
And I'm Matt Lilly.
And we're here to help you take your life to the next level. Let's get started. On today's show, we got Kimberly Stuart. She's the author of 8 novels, all of them fiction, Sugar, Heartland, and the Heidi Elliott series. She's been featured in Cosmopolitan, Huffington Post, Chicago Sun-Times, and all her books are everywhere. Recently, she partnered with Bob Goff, the best-selling author, and they're coaching hundreds of aspiring authors to finish their good and important work. And she's got a brand new podcast out there called For Real with Kimberly Stuart. It was a real treat to have her on the show. You're really going to enjoy this conversation, so let's get on with it here with Kimberly Stuart here on Next Level Method. Kimberly Stuart on the show. Welcome. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a joy to be here.
Yes. Well, you definitely have an energy about you, and you're talking about encouragement. I'm just encouraged by your positivity and your enthusiasm. It's a great day here in Wichita, Kansas. You know how it is being from Iowa. It's
Absolutely.
We've been spoiled. We've had this like crazy 70-degree weather.
Right. Yes, it's been nice.
Now it's like 40 and cloudy, which is typical December.
Totally. And actually 40
spoiled.
is a step up for me today. It's I think we're about 20. So it's a little harder to be pleasant to people when it's down that chilly.
Right. So would you think that is that you think your purpose is where you find yourself now is to kind of be the encourager in chief, maybe? I don't know, I just kind of gave you that title. I like that, encourager in
I
chief.
love it. I'm getting a t-shirt or a hat. I would totally love that. I think, yes, it's taken me quite a while to see that wiring as a gift and something maybe that I can leverage for the good of other people. I think I've always been a fairly positive person, but the idea of encouragement, that word means to infuse courage. And I love that idea. I think we all need a little shot of courage right now. Sure. And to have the honor of kind of coming alongside people and seeing who they are and speaking into that is an honor for me. I thought that was just, I don't know, I come from a long line of encouraging people, and I thought that was just how we all act. And in the last few years, I've realized that lots of people are thirsty to hear kindness and to see kindness and to hear someone look specifically at them and say, did you know that you do this really well? Did you know that your story is actually not only important, but valued and necessary? So I love being the person to do that, and to be able to put that as a part of my work is just gravy. Love it.
I love all of that. Yeah. So how did you get here? How
I
did
was
you
gonna say,
go from 8 novels?
Yes, 8.
To be this novelist, and maybe you thought that was your purpose. Certainly writers, because it's such a painful process, right? I mean, it's and when you finally do it, you're like, yeah, this is what I'm meant to do. And obviously you've written 8. So how did you go from writing novels to what you're doing now?
That is a fantastic and puzzling question.
Can I get an amen?
Because
we need the little button.
Inside
ding,
joke.
ding, ding.
We're talking
trying
about
to get
doing sound effects
and
on
I
the
always
podcast.
and so that was an amen moment. So
Yeah.
sorry.
we do have the one where they applaud, though. We can get you some applause, Richard, this morning.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get you off track.
That. Sound effects and a t-shirt. I need both of those things by the end of the day.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what? I did not set out to be a writer in the first place. I was a teacher. I was an ESL teacher and a Spanish teacher for high school, and I loved it. Loved that job. I look back now and know that was a part of my wiring to encourage too. I just loved hanging out with high schoolers, and that's a kind of a rough time. I have 3 teenagers now. Yeah. And so I was 10 when I was teaching. I look at the photos. I had no business doing that or having any authority whatsoever. I even took a trip of 9. I took a trip to Spain with 9 high school girls. And I look at those photos.
Right.
What's the sound effect for that?
Yeah.
Oh,
we do have like a wah, 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 or something.
Exactly. And who were the parents who were trusting me with their daughters? I cannot believe they did. I had no idea what I was doing. Anyway, so that was plan A, and I loved it. And when we started a family, I was staying home with my oldest actually now. She's just starting college. She was young then. And I went from that really social environment to just hanging out with her. And she's a lovely person, but at the time she was nonverbal. Right. And so, the writing came out of kind of some hunger to be around words and to be around story, and also to be documenting a little bit about what I was learning. I would call my girlfriends and we would laugh hysterically and also cry sometimes about parenting, and that it was just hard and relentless. And then I'd go to the bookstore and all these books made me feel horrible about myself. They were, basically telling me I did everything wrong and no one was funny. And I needed a little funny,
right?
Right.
So really writing came out of the desire to make my friends laugh and make my friends cry. And so the novels came out of that. Again, not really writing into a vacuum, but encouraging and putting a shot in the arm of all these young parents who just were on a kind of a rough road. So I did that for a lot of years. My first book came out 17 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so that was a wonderful way for me to be. I wanted to be at home with my kids, and I liked that. I knew that was right for our family dynamic, but at the same time, my head needed storytelling and kind of, again, using that kind of language. And so it ended up to be a good fit for me to be writing and parenting. And then speaking came out of that. It's a funny thing when you write a book, people think that you should speak at their brunch.
Right.
So I have no idea why that works. I don't know the math behind that, but it seems to be true. And so that was another level of reaching out of the pages and into the reader. I loved those live events where I could really incorporate what I was learning and some humor and just meet with folks who needed that kind of encouragement. So I think all of those breadcrumbs led to what I'm doing now, which is still writing, but also coaching other writers, coaching aspiring authors to finish their books, to get it from the dream stage to actually on paper. And I do that with my good friend, Bob Goff, who is a New York Times bestselling author and a speaker and just a phenomenal person. And we love the sharing the road with these folks, because so much of writing is on your own,
right?
In your yoga pants. Maybe not you guys, but for me.
Richard likes wearing his yoga.
I like the
Richard
yoga
wears his
pants.
yoga pants.
I got yoga pants on right now.
They're pretty baggy. They're not like a woman's yoga pants, right? It's kind of like more like basketball shorts or something. But
I like the tight.
But they're
yoga
comfy.
pants.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
okay.
I do like the tight yoga pants.
Okay.
Well, that's good to know about
Yes.
you. This is taking a turn. Conversation is spiraling down.
Yeah, the last couple we've done, I'm just starting to question Richard's sanity, but that's okay.
Hey, well,
It's the holiday season.
It is. It's the holiday season.
Little spirits there or something.
There's room for all. Right?
Yes.
Lots of room at this table.
Right.
So I don't remember what we were saying before that. Oh, a lot of writing is in your yoga pants, Richard.
Right.
Yep.
And so
Yeah, you started it. We should blame it on you, Kimberly. You started it with the comment about yoga pants.
That's right.
I didn't mean to personalize.
I thought
or
it was
visualize.
Richard. It's really it's Kimberly's deal now. Okay, so you're in your yoga pants.
Right,
you're
on
writing.
your own. I
You're
should
on
have
your
just
own
said on
in your
your
yoga,
own.
and that's the
Totally.
best way to write apparently. So for you aspiring writers out there, buy yoga pants.
Yoga pants on
That's
the
the
couch.
key.
Richard will share with you his favorite links to his favorite brands.
We'll
with
be
the sale
putting up
code.
pictures of Richard in his yoga pants later today.
It'll be on Instagram. Later
Right.
today. Me on the couch, yoga pants, writing my first novel.
Oh, well, my work here is done.
Exactly.
Yeah, so,
it has been very encouraging.
That's not really the kind of encouragement I want to impart, but okay. If that's what you need. That's good.
Well, we laugh. We just got to make him cry now.
That's coming up.
Yes, later on in the show.
So a lot of this is alone, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Your
It's
stretchy
very lonely
fabric.
there.
Yeah, and you're
Hopefully it is really alone when you're doing it.
Yeah. All you got to do is check Instagram. I'll show you. I will.
See, you
get this
are
first-
joyful. You're
I
right.
will.
You do have a gift. You were telling us in
My
pre-roll, and you are right. You are very joyful.
You laugh now,
Well,
but when you laugh now, but when that bestseller's out there,
I will be the first to want an autograph
and
copy.
I will attribute Kimberly Stuart. And her-
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And her encouragement,
please don't.
right? Yes, she's going to write one of the
Joy.
things on the back cover.
That's
Things,
right.
right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'll endorse. Yes.
Yes, endorse.
With photographic evidence. Fantastic. Joy and pain walk together.
Yes.
Yeah.
We needed a good laugh. We needed a good laugh.
That's good.
And when they ask me the secret to my success, I'll say yoga pants.
Yoga pants.
That's right.
I like it.
So getting back on track to this encouragement piece, I do like how you said about the courage piece. And I think if it's coming from an authentic and transparent place, which you had mentioned that people are hungry for it, I think that's what people are hungry for, right? The authenticity and transparency piece.
Totally. Yeah, not sugary. I'm not into saccharine kind of blowing smoke at you like everyone's doing great and you are too. Ding. I don't think that's super helpful.
I hate false motivation. I really do. And you can see, but I think you can see through it, right? I mean, when you see somebody walking up and down the ranks going, hey, what a great day. I saw that in the Marine Corps and it's raining and like, hey, what a motivating day in the rain. Isn't it great? And I'm like, no.
Not really.
I'd rather you acknowledge the cold and the rain and give me like a wink and a smile, like, man, this kind of sucks, doesn't it? And
but we're gonna do it anyway.
And we're in it together, right? That's to me is encouragement.
Absolutely. Yeah, solidarity can get us a long way, right? A shared sense of purpose or being together in the rain. There's nothing worse, I don't think, than shouting platitudes and happiness to someone who is right in the depths, right? We've all been walking through, our family has walked through a few different stages of grief recently, and there is nothing more off-putting and gross than someone speaking into that moment with like a cheery heart and like, it's all for a reason. It's going to be great. Even if those things are true, we need to give each other space to grieve. We have to give each other space to feel things and to not hurry. I wonder if this is uniquely American, that we really like to hurry folks along. I was reading a little bit about different ways that different cultures process loss recently. And there are lots of folks around the world that have ways that they mark grief, ways that they mark the moment. And we don't really, we don't have, whether it's something that we wear, or something that we say, there's like this little short window where that's acceptable. And then folks kind of want you not to feel bad, And listen, you're talking to Queen Optimist here. I really like feeling good. I like positivity and I like thinking about things for which I am grateful. But when we are in the pit, I think we do ourselves a disservice and the people we love to say, can you see the exit sign? Now just take a few steps and you're going to get out of that pit. It's just not helpful. And as you said, Richard, it's not authentic. That's not the human heart. The human heart doesn't want to hurry. Sometimes you just have to stay. And if we try to skirt that, it comes out sideways. So
that's been brought up a few times in these conversations where, whatever that feeling is or the emotion, I don't know if feeling is the right word, but the emotion that the authentic emotion that you have to go through. You have to feel those, you have to like kind of accept it and just embrace it. And I think a lot of times when people come up to you, particularly in grieving situations, oh, it's all for a purpose, or he's in God's hands now, and all this other stuff that nobody wants. I think that's people they feel nervous. They don't know what to say.
Yes.
And sometimes if you just be with them and just be present, right? And not just for the grieving, but for anything. Like if somebody's having a tough time or difficult challenges, just sitting there and listen. And think a lot of times I think it is probably an American culture thing where we rush to this judgment. We need to come up with a solution. I do think too, it's probably from at least a husband and wife perspective, the husband always feels like, at least for me, I had to solve the problem. If my wife came to me upset, stressed, or presenting a challenge, I felt like I had to, and me and my kids too, and I felt like I had to solve it. And I found out I got way much more runway if I just kind of sit there and nod and listen and repeat what they say and validate what they're feeling. So you're feeling pretty frustrating, right? And so what do you think we should do? And just ask questions, right?
Exactly.
To me, that's encouragement to me.
Yes. More, that's just spot on. Much more time listening than speaking. And I think we win with that, right? I remember hearing from a parenting expert years ago when my kids were really little, something that completely changed how I approach them, because I'm a doer too, and I like to diagnose and fix.
Me too.
And so, super productive. Let's just get productive, right? And sometimes, the human experience is not super productive. Sometimes we just have to live it. And so even in micro moments with my little ones, when they were little, I was just struggling with just wanting things to be the way they were supposed to be. And I remember this parenting guide, this author that I heard speak. I wasn't reading a lot of parenting books, and turns out I really just need this person's book because he was the best at telling me what to do. But one of the things he said was, when we approach our kids physically in a time of stress, or when they're screaming, I'm screaming, something's just going down. If you approach people with your hands open instead of fists, the temperature in the room drops immediately. Their shoulders go back, your shoulders go back. And you approach the situation with empathy instead of, this is how this is wrong and this is how we're going to fix it, right? Yeah. I'm telling you, just changing that, just tweaking that a little bit, holding my hands open. My kids didn't even notice, they were little, right? But holding my hands open, it was a signal almost to my brain of, how can I enter into this moment with you instead of fix this moment for you?
Yeah.
And that makes all the difference. And now as an adult in my relationships, same. Open hands, empathy.
Yeah, I love that. That's been my biggest hurdle as a husband, as a father, of trying to transition from the fixer to just being there and what can we do? And it's what the funny is you can sit there, you won't even say hardly maybe a dozen words, and they'll feel like you said a bunch, right?
Totally.
I've had that, and well, what do you think we should do? And, and even though I have an idea of what I think should happen, I got to fight that urge. I'm like,
no.
What do you think is best? What does that look like? Those open-ended questions are huge.
Right.
The who, what, where, when, why.
Yeah.
But I think stay away from the why. I think that's another one that I've learned.
Good.
When you, instead of asking people why, because why is almost
a rabbit trail of its own, right?
Kind of accusatory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why were you so screwed up?
Why
would you do that? Why'd you make such a dumb decision? Well, what could you have done different, as opposed to why did you do that? Well, what could we have done differently, or what?
Right.
Totally, just a subtle thing can be the game changer.
It makes all the difference. And again, I have 3 teenagers. And so we've moved into the phase where if I ask why all the time, that's a conversation killer. Because it's, as you said, they feel like they have to defend. Why did I do something dumb?
Right.
As opposed to, so what's your plan? It's just what you just said. If the ownership is on their shoulders, and I'm treating my kids as, no, you have a voice here. What do you think you should do? Even though inside I'm like, here's a great plan. Time management. Put away your phone. You should have done this last week. That's what I want to say, but so far that hasn't been super helpful.
Yeah. Well, I've seen that. I think maybe I've talked about this on the show, but I remember seeing even this summer, I remember my youngest and my wife, they have a tough time communicating, and it's kind of watching as a spectator. I can see those type of things, and just asking my wife, just ask her. She doesn't want you to solve it. She wants you to. She's just wanting to vent. My daughter's coming to there to vomit her, frustrations. Just let her do that. Let her just kind of vent, and that seems to have helped. And just kind of listen. Yeah. But now it's kind of like last week I noticed that, and my wife's like, and then my daughter's like, what? Why aren't you saying anything?
What's going on here? Right. And I mean, honestly, your wife has a lot of wisdom to share, probably.
Absolutely.
So, we want her to pipe up.
Yes.
But better for your daughter to be wanting more than less, right?
Yeah.
So you work with Bob Goff, which I love his books. Somebody recommended to me his books a year and a half or 2 ago, and I read a couple of them, and he's just such a colorful storyteller, I would say. And I'll have to meet him at some point, because it seems like his whole life is a story every single day. It's like basically he just wakes up and he meets interesting people and has the bucket story where he carried around a bucket to put his patience, so he would learn patience or something. Literally, he carried around a milk bucket.
I love it. Yeah, he is all that and more in person.
Is that right? More than the books.
Yes, I thought there was hyperbole. I mean, I thought maybe there was a little literary license there, but no, he really is. He really is that much Bob.
There's just a lot of character there, right? Yes. Does he actually get? So, a question I've got is, he puts his phone number in the back of all those books, his cell phone, and he talks about some of the people that call him, but is that just seems a little.
Happens all the time.
Oh my gosh, that just seems crazy. That
brave.
just seems crazy. I mean, just even if, I mean, just sharing your number with hundreds and thousands of people in general, even if you're not an author, it just seems like, wow, you're just going to get these, and you're inviting people to call you.
I often wonder, I should ask him this, if in that first book, he thought he'd sell like 10 copies.
Right, exactly. And you're like, I want my friends to call me if they need me. And then it was just like, whoa, wait a second. We sold 100,000 copies. We sold 1 million copies.
Exactly. You know what? We've been together many, many times when that phone will ring and he'll say, oh, hold on 1 second. And he answers the phone. Usually there's a pause where people say, usually someone will say, is this really Bob?
Right.
Right. And so he'll say, how can I help you? And I think what that gets to is that we are so unbelievably thirsty for availability.
Right.
You know, that is his gig. That's our gig with our coaching. And I hope that's my gig with my life, that the whole idea is to just break down those walls. We put up so many like hoops to jump through to have a real conversation. And really, most folks just want you to answer the phone, right? Most folks just want you to say, I see you. I see who you are. And I mean, if it's the cashier at Costco, right? He doesn't have Bob isn't having like these 4-hour conversations typically.
Right.
And really, it's amazing how much you can pack a punch by answering the phone. How much you can do by looking someone in the face and saying their name, right? And saying, I'm really glad, I'm honored that you would call me, right? So it's interesting to watch in real life because, I mean, sometimes in a speaking engagement, he'll pause right in the middle.
Really?
No way.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. But again, that is not an act. That's really his heartbeat. And that's the one I want for me too, you know, that I'm not always coming from a moment of scarcity, right? How little do I have to offer to you? How little time do I have? And then I'm going to like, you know, Jenga piece my schedule. And then if there's extra, then I'll answer the phone. That's a really soul poor way to live, right? Your soul is depleted if that's how you live. And often that's my default is to look at how little I have instead of saying, I have more than enough. I'm answering the phone.
Yeah, coming from a place, you know, intentionally moving to that place of abundance, right? Why is that the default state? You think the scarcity thing? Why is that? I mean, I know it's my default. You know, I have to intentionally work at that. I mean, I do it twice a day. I do the gratitude thing twice a day intentionally, and that helps. Yeah. I mean, it definitely helps. I start the day with it, and I do it midday. I guess I do it 3 times. I try to do it when I go to bed. But if not, all I do is I walk around the house like, oh, that's broken. That sucks. This, why?
Totally.
How much money I got in my bank account today? Oh, why? Instead of like how much in thinking, you know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. And I don't know why that's the default. It is though. It is for us for sure. It is for me. I was talking to a friend on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, and she was saying that one little shift she made was that when she would wake up, she was cranky. She would just be cranky when she woke up. And she shifted to, instead of sitting up in bed and thinking, I did not get enough sleep, I'm going to be tired all day. She just shifted to, I have exactly what I need for today. Even if she didn't get enough sleep, even if she was tired. I have thought about that over and over since she said that to me, because I have that same tendency. I roll over, slap the alarm and think, oh, I should have gotten to bed an hour earlier. So the tendency is to start my day thinking I don't have enough, which is not true, right? It's not true. We can kick that in the shins, but I think it's what you said, Richard, that it's a discipline. I don't think my head naturally will go to that. I have to train it to go to that. I agree. You think that's true?
I do. I think it is. I think it is for me anyway, and it becomes more of a habit. And it's weird because you can see the tangible benefits of doing that. You have tangible proof of when you start with scarcity or you start with an abundant mindset, the day's different. And why do you still go back? You think it would just be automatic. Right. It's not for me at this point anyway, you know. But I mean, I would think, if one thing I've learned after, doing all these conversations over the years, I mean, even people that, I imagine Bob probably does it. Bob probably has imposter syndrome. Bob has moments of negativity. So I think it has to be intentional for him too.
Totally.
Everybody I've ever come across said, yeah, I got to work at it. I got to do this. I got to do that.
Yeah, I don't know why we have to learn those same lessons a billion times.
I don't know.
Would you call whoever made that instruction, that deal, and have them reset that? So like at the factory, can they just reset that deal? It's like, let the default setting be just joy and happiness. And it is the default setting. It's just, I think life happens, right? And it kind of.
Some of it, I had a really great conversation with two biologists on a separate show. We were kind of talking about this in mindset and habits, and they were these evolutionary biologists, and they went back and like everything is tied to things that we did. Like the stuff that we're dealing with now, and the reason why we're having so much trouble is because our bodies, the genomes, are wired for 10,000 years ago, and the technology, everything is just so fast, and that's why we have these kind of, these challenges. And so even like why do you have even to the divisions that we have in our society? And they related it back to, well, because you don't want to starve. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you think about it. It's like when you're growing up, we can't, as human beings, we can't survive by ourselves. Right. We just can't. Right. I mean, out there in the wilderness, I'm going to need somebody like how to make arrowheads, and I know how to make the bow. Right. And together we can make an arrow and go kill some meat, right? But by yourself, it's to be banished from the tribe is so frightening. And it goes back to that evolution because you don't want to starve, right? And so that's why it's so easy to go into group think type of things, or not speak up, not have the courage to speak up. Right. When you see something, because you don't want to be banished, it's wired in you that you don't want to starve. That was their kind of take on it.
That's interesting.
And it does kind of make sense when you think about it, right? Right. I mean, like, why don't I speak up to have the courage to speak up when I know this is wrong? I mean, there's plenty of examples, and we've all been guilty of that, right? Like, I stayed silent when I shouldn't have, or I spoke up when I shouldn't have, or because you have the courage to do something. To do the right thing, because I don't want to be banished.
Yeah, that is a powerful motivator to not be alone, right?
Yeah.
We do all sorts of things to not be alone. I think probably being addicted to social media is is the quietest version of that. I think that's just people saying over and over, am I alone? Am I alone? Am I alone? So maybe one of the clarion calls for our generation is to figure out ways to answer that question for each other. No, you're not alone. You're not alone. There's room at this table. You're not alone. And that has to come from not thinking there's not enough.
Yeah, you have to start from abundant space. And even like if you feel alone, this has come up a couple of times, Matt. We've talked about this, that if I find myself in that kind of isolated place, I'm alone. I don't feel like I have anything to give. But then you actually somehow have to, the key is, how do you do it? How do you take the initial step and actually start to add value to something and realize that every transaction, if you are at the convenience store and you're at the lowest of lows, what if you intentionally just try to make this person's life better? Then your life automatically becomes better, or starts to become better, right? To me, that is the solution. Right. If you find yourself in that kind of cold, dark place, you have to add value to somebody. You got to stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about others, right?
Yeah, it's a strange math. It's a strange economy that works, right? You would think that if I give more, I'll have less for me. But it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work that way, right?
Yeah, if you chase the buckets, if you try to directly fill the buckets by finding the spigots, they never get full. But if you kind of leave them to the side and just start filling other people's buckets, somehow yours gets filled. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it this way, but I think a lot about death. Here, she's the life of the party.
Yeah.
But I had.
Let's have her over again. She was great
When's your
dinner.
Next show,
Right. She was a great dinner conversationalist. Let's have her. Why does she always wear black?
Girl.
Why does she always wear black all the time? So I'm here for comic relief and comic relief alone. That's my role in this whole gig. So you think about death a lot. Let's go there. I can feel the tear. I think we're going to get to the crying part. I've been waiting. I've been trying to well
we're
up
not
the.
crying. I can't force you to cry, Matt.
I know, but
that kind of girl.
I just want to be that. I want it to be a good show. I just want it to be the best show it can be. So
now the pressure is that I would make someone weep.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to. I'll go to a dark spot because you're talking about death. Let's get there so I can do the crying.
Okay, that's my point. That I don't think it's a dark spot. I had 4 phenomenal grandparents. My final remaining living grandparent was my grandma who died last year, and they all lived beautiful, rich, long lives, and I was so grateful. I mean, my last grandma died when I was 45. That is ridiculous to have that many years.
That's a long time.
Watching and learning how to live and also how to walk those few steps home to be in the end. And I think what I learned from that whole experience of saying goodbye those times was that the things I keep spending my life spinning about, nobody talks about that at the end. Not one person brought up all the, 90% of my time in a given day, I can fritter away to things that no one will ever care about. That is sobering to me. Right. And also just absolutely motivating. Like when you say, how do I remember not to move from a position of scarcity? That's a good reminder. When we get to the end, not one person is coming to my funeral and being like, I really appreciate the way that she had a phenomenally clean house. No one cares. That's
so motivating.
One ever. Never. She really did a great job working out frequently. I mean, no one, right? No one will say that.
Yeah. She ate a lot of clean foods all the time.
Yeah, right.
Right. She was very good at eating clean.
Clean.
Right.
I mean, isn't that kind of a horrible thought though, that if someone says that at my funeral, I have missed the boat. If that's all they can scrounge up is, wow, those toilets, sick and span.
Right. I always liked going to her house because she always had the cleanest toilets.
Yeah.
Right.
Damn,
They always had the softest toilet paper. It was amazing. It was like a spa experience.
That would be so sad.
Yes, it would be.
So sad. I'd much rather have them say, I was with her one time. It was completely inconvenient. And she stopped what she was doing, looked me in the face, and we had a really great conversation.
Right.
That might rise to the top.
Yeah.
But the other stuff won't.
Yeah.
I'm headed to a conference tomorrow, and I went a couple of years ago, and at this conference, they usually try to, it's only a 2-day deal, but they try to get you to expand your thinking kind of to this, what we're talking about, beyond yourself, beyond kind of what's happening. And so the last time I went, they had I think it was 500 years. It was a time horizon of 1,000 years. They put it up on the wall and said, here you are today. And then they went back 500, and then they kind of tried to project forward 500 years. And the exercise was name your grandparents, right? Now name your great-grandparents. And for those of you in the room who can, now name your great-great-grandparents. And that was, basically 2 generations is about it. And it's like, okay, so those people then, your grandparents were doing things that hopefully benefited your life in some way, shape, or form. Just having your parents, that benefited you being here, right?
Yeah.
But as I started to think about it, I was like, and then they went back and said, so it was kind of about intentionality in life. And it was like, how intentional did the founding fathers of the United States have to be with, how the United States was going to function, right? They had to be thinking not 10 years or 20 years or not next quarter, right? They were thinking hundreds and hundreds of years in the future. This whole thing has to be built kind of on these rules. And so as I thought about that, I was like, wow, what am I doing? And I'll say I'm not doing an awesome job of it, but I'm like, what am I doing intentionally with my children, with the friends that we have, what am I doing? Because in 100 years from now and 50 years after I'm dead, nobody's going to know my name, right? Basically is what it says. And no matter how famous you are, there's only a few minor, examples of people that will be remembered, Jesus or Buddha or whoever, that'll be remembered in perpetuity. Everybody else kind of comes and goes. And so it's like, okay. And not to bring a somber into our podcast today, but it's just like, what am I doing? What are the things that matter? I guess back to your point, Kimberly, is like, what are the things that truly matter, and how much time each day am I spending with those things, right? Which are my kids, my family, my friends, right? Or coworkers. How am I adding value? How am I impacting society as a whole, meaning not necessarily going and working in war-torn countries necessarily, if that's not what I'm called to do, but really what am I called to do each and every day? And, putting a smile on my daughter's face and making my son feel proud that he's doing something good. That's really, for me, where the work is at.
I think that's the value of what Kimberly's saying, like thinking about death. I mean, there is some value to think about every morning, waking up and thinking about death in the sense of, wow, I've been handed a gift today. What am I going to do with that?
That's right.
I mean, that's not morbid. That's not,
not at all.
I don't think that's, because there's no escaping it. We're all going to, all of us are going to die.
Yeah.
And it's a guarantee.
It's more mindful than, I think it's more mindful than morbid,
Because that way
you stock.
Yeah, exactly.
That way you don't stress about, oh, I haven't vacuumed the carpet today.
Right.
Because
not really on the list.
Trying to impress my mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Or whatever, It doesn't matter.
An unreachable goal.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Didn't mean to bring that up, but
So you spend a lot of your time now coaching, and then you have a new podcast out, I see. But you spend a lot of your time coaching authors. But kind of what are some of the premises around that coaching? Because I've got to think it applies for not just writing a book, right? They're probably more broad stroke. I'm sure some of it may be tactical, but then there's kind of the overall.
It's got to be overcoming.
Yeah, overcoming resistance, right?
Right. That's the big thing.
Lots of that.
Yeah.
Right. I think a lot of folks find us and sign up with us, not just, as you say, for the technical aspects of writing and how to make your prose sing and how to have the arc of a story or a nonfiction book that just is carried from one chapter to chapter 30 or whatever. We do absolutely get down in the weeds with that. But you're right that a lot of what we end up doing all the way through the process, not just at the beginning and not just at the end, is really encouraging people to do the work. Something like 85% of people surveyed in the US said that they thought they had a book in them. And less than 1% of those people actually write the book. So there's a disconnect there, right? The desire is there, the intention is there, and then lots of people just don't do it. So part of what we do is remind people they can and really help them have some concrete steps to getting there. Just a lot of there are a lot of reasons not to write your book, more reasons than to write your book. And so, and everything else around us is just emergency status all the time. So, we do a lot of reminding people actually exactly what we're talking about, that words remain, right?
Right.
In fact, when you were talking, Matt, I was thinking, gosh, I need to write more for my family. What a ridiculous gift that would be if I had the words of I have a few letters from my great, let's see, is it a great? No, just one great grandparents, some that have just been passed down. Some of them are just beautiful on brittle paper because we passed them around. And it wasn't a time when, my hardworking farm wife, great grandmother was not journaling. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Not a lot of journal time.
Journal.
But what a gift that would be, right? To be able to hear what she was thinking and learning and how she was walking through her life in Northwest Iowa. And so that is a plug. You inadvertently inspired me to do that.
And actually, now that you say that, and I've got to get back to it because I'm lazy. I'm in my approach to writing, but I actually, for my son, when he was about 2.5, I bought a book and I started writing in there probably every day, every other day for a while, but it was about things he was doing and like, hey, I really enjoyed seeing you do this and that. Now I stopped. It's been about a year since I've written in that book and I need to go back on my daughter's too now. I need to get her a book. But for me, it was just that as kind of leaving something for them to know that I was, if nothing else, that I was just with them in those moments. Because as I think back on my own childhood, it's like, pre 7, 8, 9 years old, there's not a lot of memory for me of what was happening. And so it was kind of, for me, it was like, I'm a little bit older parent. My kids are fairly young. And so, they're going to be, at some point I'm going to be like a senior citizen by the time that they're graduating high school. So I need to figure out a way to kind of connect with them. So when they, hopefully when they look back at these books, they can say, oh, okay, dad was paying attention.
There's
to
power
me,
in that
right?
because I did that with my first daughter. I got 4 daughters, but the first one I was writing all the time. And I made it for a couple of years.
Right.
And then I tried it with my second one. Then, of course,
by the fourth one, you're like,
but
Birthday cards and Christmas
my
now for you
oldest
on your.
still has it. My oldest has it. It was over at her place.
Yeah.
And she has it on the bookshelf, and I opened it up and I was reading it, and it's good because I can remember.
Right.
Oh, I remember when I wrote that and did that. Because it's weird. Like, have you ever watched like home movies or something, and you have no recollection
Of what?
of
Right.
that happening?
Not at all.
Like, I don't even remember doing that. I don't remember saying that.
Totally.
I don't remember that day. How is that possible?
I know.
Yeah.
And when you write things down, it kind of it
Right.
Something
makes it a
magical
permanent,
to it, right?
makes a permanent part in your brain.
Yeah, I think in our coaching and also just in the things we're talking about here, the idea is not to make it bigger than it is.
Yeah.
So if you
Right.
think I am writing my magnum opus, this must be
Right.
5,000 words a page, like that will
War and Peace.
tank
Yeah, this is
after
my
day.
Ivanhoe,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tolstoy did that.
Yeah,
You
just
can
a
just
little.
let him have that.
Yeah, just a little book.
Just a little bit. Yeah, just a little tiny doorstop. If I think about it that way, even in my own writing, if I think in chapter 1, how in the world am I going to get to chapter 20? Then I'm paralyzed
Right.
because I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. So, one word at a time, one paragraph at a time, one story at a time. That's what makes things happen. That's what ties things together. And at the end, you have this body of work. But if we decide on the front end that it's going to be impossible, or we decide on the front end that it's actually really poor writing and that no one should be reading this, then we won't do it, right? You can't edit I mean, in professional writing, we always say you can't edit a blank page. You need to have something on the page to edit. So get the words out there, even when they're just really bad words. But in what we're talking about, like an heirloom for our family, just a few sentences, right?
Right.
Wouldn't you be fascinated
Yep.
to read what your
Right.
ancestor, a couple sentences would be
Right.
fascinating.
Yeah.
So maybe pulling that pressure off of our shoulders to do it right. And then instead just do it.
Right.
I like that advice.
Yeah,
It's been a
definitely.
thorn on my side to try to write something. It's that, and what you said is like, oh, who's going to want to read this, or trying to, what's chapter 20 going to look like? I'm trying to put it all together in a neat package before I start writing.
Yeah.
What's your advice on? I've heard some people. A friend of mine wrote a book and said he did it. He just started recording himself talking and translating it as a text,
Yeah.
and then he would take that and clean it up and add more and do this that. So I think that's what I might start doing.
Yeah, that's a great. If that is, there are so many ways
Sure.
to throw these darts at the board, and that's one of them that I think a lot of folks find some success with. In fact, I think there's a service at rev.com,
Rev.com,
where
yeah.
you can send your work in, and they'll send you a transcript for a small fee. So sometimes that pushes people over the edge. We're always trying to find the way to like shove writers off the high dive and into the water so that they're just kind of having
treading
to
water.
swim and do it. And so that's one great way. Bob keeps a very, very, very long Word document that he's constantly adding to. I keep a very lengthy note on my phone because, again, the idea is if it's good writing has to come out of good living. So if you're just sitting in a room and not experiencing anything, your writing's probably going to show that. So that means a lot of our life is not sitting in front of the computer. So the challenge for me always is, well, how do I pull those ideas quick before they leave and keep them in a spot where I can return to them later? And often it's when, I'm doing the dishes or I'm taking the dog for a walk or I'm running carpool. It's never when I'm, sitting by a fire and swirling my sherry.
I was going to say, you're an author. You don't do any of those things, right? You just kind of like, you have your typewriter, like an old-fashioned typewriter, and you've got the window
Exactly.
open.
Clack, clack, clack. I wear a lot of scarves.
And flannel and yoga
smoke
pants.
Pipes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. That's exactly my life.
Wow.
So-
That's wonderful.
Isn't that great?
Yes.
It's just as I thought it would be.
It was
this
exactly what I
writing
thought
life.
it would be.
Well, in case you don't have the serious blessing of my life,
Yeah.
I would recommend getting those things down. And it's funny that you think you will remember these things.
Right.
This is going back to what we were just saying. You just don't. We don't.
Right.
We don't remember anything. So if it's rev.com, if it's sending yourself an email, if it's keeping I have journals all over the house, notebooks all over the house, because I don't know where I'm going to be when the ideas hit. And then balancing that with writing, like anything else, is a discipline, right? There is a lot of, you just get your tush in the chair and you write your words. And if you wait for the muse to hit, if you wait for the skies to part, it's just, the clouds to part, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes, I mean, on a very rare occasion, will I be sitting and my fingers are flying and I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, this is so fantastic. It's effortless today. But I would say 95% of the time, that is not the case. 95% of the time, it's just a matter of sitting down and getting in it.
Nice. That's great advice.
Well, I wish we had more time. We have
Yeah.
another show that we got to do, unfortunately.
Oh, well,
Richard's going to cry
so
now.
sad.
Richard's going
So
to
you're
cry now.
enjoying this.
Yes, exactly. I am enjoying this as well. You're very encouraging, and you do have a gift, and we appreciate you bringing your
kind
gift
of you.
to us and to our listeners today. So that's a really cool.
How can people?
We didn't even get into the fact that you lived in Costa Rica. I didn't even catch that.
It's a long way from Iowa.
Yeah, so
It
we're
is
gonna
a
have to.
long way. It's
so
a lot
do you,
warmer too.
do you have another book coming out or anything in the near future? Oh, I'm sorry. Shame on me for even asking. I'm sorry.
No, that's a
bad
great
man.
question.
Bad
No,
man.
that's a great question. I have written, the books I've written thus far are all fiction. They're
Yes.
all novels.
Uh-huh.
And I'm currently working on a book that is nonfiction.
Right.
And it is kicking my tail.
Oh.
It was so easy, it turns out. If I didn't like someone in my books, I just killed them. Yes. So much easier. Crack a joke and turn the page, new chapter. This
Right.
is just a lot harder. So,
Oh.
but yeah, we're hoping to, I'll keep you posted.
Yes,
on
please
how
do.
it
We'd
goes.
love to
Thank
have you.
for
We'd love
asking.
to have you come back on just to, if nothing else, tell us about
thank
how that's
you.
going and some of your other experiences.
you.
You're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We had a good
Well,
good
thank
laugh, and
you.
Richard's crying here. At the end.
Yeah. Right. Let's come to an end. Yeah. For Real's the podcast, right? And then how
It
else can
is.
people reach out to you?
I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but really the best place is probably just to find me at my website, which is KimberlyStuart.com.
Mhm.
Okay. BERLYSTUART
Mhm.
.com. And I'd just love to hear from you. I kind of like people. I hope
Yeah.
that came across.
It did.
It did.
Thank you guys for having me. What a total joy. This was such a fun conversation.
Yeah, see?
We
do
are
that.
fun.
We are fun.
We are fun.
You are fun.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Those darn
Yeah.
kids.
Those
They were wrong. We
naysayers.
are We are fun.
Now, let's not get so fun that the next time I join you, you're both in yoga pants. Can we just keep that
we won't do
on-
that.
off
I'll
the
promise
table?
I won't
Okay.
do that.
Not that kind of fun. Okay.
I'm
All
still
right.
going to wear yoga pants. Yoga pants. That's what I've learned from this. That's the key to success.
That's the key to
No.
writing success.
Kimberly, thanks for coming on the show. It was a true joy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Man, my takeaways. What a fun conversation. We're having fun on these conversations.
Yeah,
We're getting in
yeah.
the groove. She was a real joy. I didn't know much about her. And I really appreciate her enthusiasm, her encouragement,
Yes.
what she wanted to talk about. And I was really pleased where the conversation went. What were your takeaways from talking with her?
I just think we all have life to live, and we're all very similar in the way things things happen in life. We have kids, not kids, whatever is happening, but we all experience the same emotions: anxiety, stress, laughter, joy, love, death, all of that, right? And I think I just really like her kind of just very matter-of-fact approach, but then also finding joy in her life and about encouraging others. And so, yeah, as you heard during the show today, it was just, one, it was funny. We had a great time. But just two, I love her realism, and that taps into her podcast, but just the realism of, hey, everybody goes through stuff, and you just got to put one foot in front of the other in a very authentic way, not fake it till you make it type thing, but just, hey, this is life, and we're just living it, and let's live it together.
Yeah, to me, it was all about authenticity, intentionality, and a lot of a couple instances of like just small, subtle changes that can have a powerful impact.
Right.
A couple great examples in there.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. And then two, from the writing aspect of it, kind of the techniques of just getting started. You just got to just start writing. Just do it every single day. You don't have to write your magnus opus, as she said. That was kind of the big takeaways. Just if you go into it thinking, oh, this is going to not be good, who's going to want to read it, you're never going to get it written. If you just start writing, it's a simple things. Great guest. I love Kimberly Stuart.
I loved having her on the show. She was fun. I hope she comes back on when she gets her book she talked about. Yeah, hopefully she'll come back on and we'll talk about that.
Yep. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Next Level Method podcast. If you found some value in this, tell somebody about the show. Tell your friends, tell your spouse, tell your kids, let them know all about Next Level Method. And go to nextlevelmethod.com to learn more and join our community. Thanks for tuning in.